This is the talk show that takes a no-holds-barred approach to politics, where truth and integrity are the standard and the Constitution honored. From Renaissance Studios, this is Champion News Talk Radio.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of Champion News Talk Radio, brought to you by championnews.net, where you can get all of your latest political news. This is Carol Parisi, our founder Jack Roser, and myself today are speaking with John Bambenek. Good morning, Jack. How are you?
Oh, pretty good considering.
Considering?
Oh, well, the actions of our ditzy President of the United States. That guy sure did make a mess of things.
Well, guess what?
He blamed everybody but himself. You know, our press in general has got to stand a lot of responsibility for not leveling about the crummy level of performance that we're getting out of our chief executive. If that's a leader of the United States, my name is Nicodemus.
Well, Nicodemus, I
yes,
just
sir.
have to tell you, elections have consequences, and he gave the people a lot of blither about hope and change. But the good news is we have an election coming up, and that is why we have John Bambenek here today, because, John, you are going to be running for an office here in Illinois.
That's correct. I'm running for the state senate in the 52nd district down in Champaign and Danville.
And why are you doing that?
Well, like many people, looking at...
Is that the district that Black was in?
No. He was in the back half of the district in the House seat. So
okay.
The Senate district encompasses what was Bill Black's seat.
So he's half of that territory.
Correct.
Yeah, he was down there a long time.
28 years, I believe.
Gee, more than that. Yeah.
So, yeah, for a long time. So, as I've traveled the state over the past few years and just talked to people, there's kind of a growing feeling that our children will not have as good of a life as we have. We see our economy with no real hope for it to climb back up in the near term. We see jobs moving out of the state of Illinois in particular. Particularly in the Danville area, which is right by the Indiana border. Jobs can very easily just relocate on the side of the state line. And I've got 3 young kids, and I'm wondering, are they going to have the same opportunities I have? And sitting on the sidelines is simply unacceptable. Just being a father who wants a good life for my kids, sitting around and doing nothing and just letting things happen isn't really an acceptable option for me anymore.
So you're taking a proactive approach, and you are going to step up much like our founders did and do your civil service, huh?
Yeah, well, I don't think I'll have to face the musket fire that our founders did, but yeah, stepping up and doing what I think is necessary to turn our state and our country around.
It's really, all the things you mentioned are really a shame. Certainly it's a bad thing for our children, the next generation coming along. This whole thing is a curse on them. I'm a businessman, and naturally react like practically all of those did that left the state. I'm not going to leave the state because my firm is manufacturing, auto engineering, and we're doing it all here, not in China. And we are successful despite the best efforts of the politicians to make it difficult. And while a lot of people complain about the rise in taxes, and I do too, because I've been in business long enough to remember what the taxes were before Reagan. And they were 52% was the marginal tax rate. And starting a business when the government is like the mafia. They come in and say, we are your new partner. We want 52% of everything you make. That's kind of a mafia act. And it wasn't until Reagan got in that the thing got down into around 30%. And since then it's up to over 40. But it's a world of difference from 52%. And as bad as the taxes are, what's even worse is the stinking regulations that they put into place. Those regulations are the death of 1,000 cuts leading to socialism. I mean, socialism in one swoop because they won some damn battle and the Reds are going to tell you what to do? No. what they've done is won 1,000 little battles about whether you can cut the curb, what size your steps are going to be, what's the diameter of the handle on the railing, and what can you do with anything in your life without getting permission before you can start. I mean, this is not like a law that says I can't swing my fist and hurt you. That's a good law. But when they start talking about how high I can carry my hand above the ground and giving me a citation for that, and that's what I'm trying to get at here, is that the regulations to prevent a harm, they're just legion. And that's a long ways away from being responsible people, which is what real Americans are.
Personal responsibility.
Yes, they're free and responsible. And this guy Obama is treating us all like we're victims, but he's taken our money to pretend to take care of the woes of people that haven't yet shared in the American dream.
Now, John, what do you say about businesses leaving Illinois, and what, as a senator, are you going to plan to do better?
Well, like I said, particularly in the Danville area, a lot of businesses have just left that area, particularly manufacturing, just to go to Indiana. If you could do the same job for
Did you say India or Indiana?
Indiana.
Okay, okay.
There's a statistic I saw recently. In the last decade, 15% of manufacturing jobs are lost in Illinois to Wisconsin and Indiana, not India or China.
It's lost 15%?
To Wisconsin and Indiana.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, and that's people, that's entire communities that have become, less vibrant. Decatur, Danville, Peoria, Rockford, because those jobs simply just move 50, 25, 50, 100 miles, do the same job, but they don't have to deal with the regulations, the taxes, the hostile political climate, any number of things that really make it difficult to do business in Illinois.
Cook County does that within the state. As bad as the state is, Cook County is worse.
Absolutely.
I know I'm an old guy, and I started a business for a rich man, but I had to learn how to sell nationally and build in Illinois. And that business started over 1949. So I know what Illinois and Chicago was then. And Chicago was the most dynamic center of industry in the whole world, not only Illinois and the United States. It was huge. And the saying was, if you can't get a job in Chicago, you can't get a job anywhere.
Yeah.
I lived through that as a businessman. And my memories of it are great. But the Democrats have taken the city of Chicago and reduced it to rubble as far as jobs go. The state of Illinois, the Democrats have full responsibility for the fiscal mess that we are in right now on taxes, regulations, terrible education, a bankrupt education system. Those suckers in the Democratic Party, they own this trouble. It's not that they haven't had some help from the bipartisan culture of sleaze of some of the Republicans that sucked along in the draft of all of this organized mayhem that the Democrats have given us. So here we are in Illinois, with everybody recognizes us as the most corrupt state, and also the one in the worst financial trouble.
Absolutely, and I think you make a good point that the Republicans, or at least some Republicans, bear a fair share of blame to it.
Yes, they do.
We kind of know what the social progressive Democrats will do. We know the effect. But in this state, after George Ryan, Alan Keyes, and some of those fiascos, there's many in the party who won't stand on their principles, don't know how to articulate them, and don't really think they matter. Says, oh, we're going to talk about fiscal issues, and we're just going to forget the social ones. They don't matter anymore. Or people say, well, we'll raise taxes, but just not as much as the Democrats will. And ultimately, there's no counter push to that. There's not a lot of people advancing a real image to how to turn Illinois around. It's just, well, we're not Democrats, vote for us.
There was an element of the Republican Party. Luckily, a lot of them were taken out by the U.S. Attorney Fitzgerald, Patrick Fitzgerald. He sent some 400 crooks from both parties to jail, so he cleaned out a lot of them. The Democrats have a bigger supply, so it didn't really make much difference to them. But we did get rid of some real creeps in the Republican Party. And there's I'm always afraid of accusing anybody of a felony, but there are two of those Republican creeks, one in a central cause of our problems that's indicted and shortly going to trial. And there's another one that's mentioned in the proffer, his partner in a firm called, well, I'm going to leave the name out, but an essential Republican group. And so those two guys are now sidelined for sure. And we've gotten rid of a number of others. And fortunately, the sway of Hastert has been toned down. I mean, I had a lot to do with electing Hastert in the first place, but he's now pretty much out of the play and should be. We need a new top of the Republican Party. We can't go on with these people that fought only for their own benefit and their own time and power.